for example, fasting. What does that mean exactly, right? Like, how long do you fast for, and what do you fast for?
For each person, right? What they're going to fast for.
Right.
Sometimes you fast because you want to break through in a particular area of your life.
Sure.
It's going to be powerful. And see, this is where I think a lot of people miss it. And hopefully I could be candid with this.
Sure.
You don't have to believe what I'm saying. I'm not a theologian. I'm just talking about my own personal experience.
Sure. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the D&G podcast. And as you can see, I'm actually pretty bundled up today because it's kind of cold. And we're in California, so it's kind of, we're spoiled in California. It's not very cold here, but our studio is in kind of like a warehouse type of setting, so it gets pretty cold here. So anyways, with that being said, I've got a very special guest today. This guy's been a good friend of mine for nearly a decade now, right? About a decade.
Yeah, just about, yeah.
And I've got a lot of respect for him, not only on the business side, but also on the spiritual side. I go to him. He knows a lot about the Bible. He's one of the people that I confide in when it comes to questions that I'm having, also on the personal level. So this gentleman and his family have a very special place in my heart. And he's also an incredible entrepreneur, one of the guys I look up to tremendously. He's made a lot of money, helped a lot of people. So we got him here on the podcast. Mr. Danny Pacheco, how you doing, brother?
Blessed and highly favored. I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me.
That's right. I was just telling you before we started recording that blessed and highly favored is something that I got from you. So a lot of people that know me, they know, how you doing, JC? Blessed and highly favored. So I mentioned to you, I've already duplicated that to a bunch of
Wonderful.
people. We got a bunch of people now saying that.
Fantastic. That is a great thing. When you wake up, just being able to have an attitude of gratitude when you wake up and acknowledge that we are blessed just from the minute go, waking up in the morning, it's important.
That's true.
It's an important mindset to carry.
That is true. And I think during the pandemic, I think the world has come to understand, like, hey, listen, even more so than ever before, that life is fragile.
Yes.
Right. We've seen that a lot and stuff. It's very, very unprecedented times that we are in. And I've seen, some friends of mine, man, that they're gone. You know what I mean? And so it definitely drives it home even more when we say blessed and highly favored, because, hey, I'm healthy. My family is well. Business is good. Listen, man, we're more blessed than we can imagine.
Absolutely. I agree 100%.
Yeah. So I'm glad to finally have you on the podcast, bro. I know that we've been talking about this for months, and it finally happened.
Absolutely, yeah. In fact, I remember when our schedules didn't really coincide.
Right.
For a while back, we wanted to do something, and I saw you get started, and that's one of the things that I like you about the most is that you're highly driven and you're gonna go.
Yeah.
And figure, it's that type of drive that has gone to you where you've gotten to in life as well, because you said a lot of nice things right now in the intro, but I can honestly say that you personify many of those same qualities. And so I congratulate you. You have a growing family right now, a young budding family. And so all those things are part of that whole mentality of being blessed and favored.
Absolutely, man. I'm trying to catch up to your family, bro. How many kids do you have?
6 altogether.
6. Oh, no, you're going to beat me, bro. I think I'm done with 2. I think at 2... I'm tapping out, man. But I appreciate that.
I'm still, old school Mexican.
That's right. You guys need to get a TV back in the days, man. You know what I'm saying?
That's right, yeah.
No, that's awesome, bro. No, well, I appreciate that. What's interesting about Danny is that you and I were going to start the podcast, our own podcast together.
That's right,
But you being as busy as you are, me being as busy as I am, it was just kind of tough. And we talked about this early 2020, I think it was.
That's correct, yeah.
And it was, and then after a while we realized, okay, it's going to be pretty tough with our schedules being so busy. So I said, hey, listen, I'll have him on the podcast and stuff, and I'll get advice from him and whatnot. So
absolutely.
Did you mention, or was it our buddy Wences that said that you guys are going to start your own podcast? Which one of you was it?
No, I don't know. I haven't talked to Wences about podcasts. Okay. I think it probably was him.
Yeah,
I'm more of a behind the scenes kind of person, as you know. I just kind of stay in the background a little bit.
Yep, I see that. So listen, there's a lot that I want to dive into. I know a little bit about your story, and one of the stories that you shared with me, because this is a podcast for entrepreneurs and people that want to succeed, sales professionals, entrepreneurs, etc. Right? I like to say salespeople, entrepreneurs, millionaires, and millionaires in the making. Right? So we've got successful people that we bring on the podcast, and we like to ask them some of these questions. So I want to go into the story where you used to sell merchandise on the streets, bro.
You got to clarify that a little bit better. Maybe rephrase that question a little bit. It might give the wrong impression.
That's true. Very vague, right? Merchandise on the street, right?
Yeah. No, I think you're referring to when I first, and it wasn't my first sales position, but it was the first one that I did getting to Texas. I moved out there, and I was there for about 2 years and didn't know anybody. So, my go-to was going into something that had to do with sales.
Sure.
And I found a company that it was a direct sales company and had general merchandise. So one day we could have had stuffed animals, another day we could have briefcases.
Got it.
And we would go door to door, business to business, and then offer whatever we had, right? And so the thing about that particular endeavor was that it gave mental fortitude. And I think that that's one of the things that if you're going to become a salesperson or an entrepreneur and a millionaire in the making, or even beyond that, right?
Yes.
You need to have mental fortitude. You need to be able to handle rejection.
Right.
And that's what being business to business, door to door taught me was you got to deal with rejection right out the door.
Yeah.
And in fact, you got to welcome the rejection, because the mentality is the more rejection I get up front, the closer to obtaining commitment I'm going to be. Right. So that's the mentality that was taught to me early on. And it just it was such a great school to be able to do that, to be, because you walk into a place of business, there's no soliciting, seen that before, get out of here, you can't come in here, blah, 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 having security cards, escort you out the door, it just creates that framework of toughness, mental toughness, and being able to have a thick hide that absolutely nothing's going to stop you. The weather's not going to stop you. The no's are not going to stop you.
That's right.
The competition's not going to stop you. Nothing is going to stop you. And that's what that did for me.
I love it. And I love how you say obtain commitment. Can you get into why you say that? Because I remember when we were working together a couple of years ago, you did a training, the way that you worded, obtain commitment. Get into that, please.
Well, it's just a mindset, right? And I learned this, if you really want to if you could take a takeaway from everything that I'm talking about right now, go order this book right now. It's called Spin Selling. Spin Selling could dramatically change my life. Why? Because it moves you from what works with low budget items to what doesn't work as well in higher ticket items. And so when you understand those dynamics, that not all sales are created equal, you're going to change your mindset. Instead of thinking about closing a deal, you need to start thinking about it from the perspective of obtaining commitment. Because I don't really use the word sales or sales professional. I'm not trying to change anything, right? Sure. But what I teach is that sales is nothing more than becoming a good communicator.
Right.
So when you teach, instead of being a teacher, or an educator, you should become a good communicator. An educator gives you facts and figures, it gives you information. A communicator is going to transfer from his mind to your mind an idea that you're going to say, yes, I agree with that.
Right.
So when you communicate properly and effectively, the national progression of the sales cycle is going to be somebody that is going to commit to whatever it is that you have, product, service, or an idea.
The transfer of what you believe in, right? Yeah. And yes, communication is one of the key skills that I want to teach my son. You know what I mean? Yeah. I know that that's one of the things that it's unfortunate that in school they don't teach a lot of these things very often.
Well, they don't, because traditionally, even school or even sales in general, when somebody is going through a sales cycle and they talk about the close, I don't want to be closed. Right. Nobody wants to be. We're not a door. We're not a garage. We're not a sliding door. Who wants to be closed? Nobody wants to be closed.
Sure.
But you could obtain commitment. And that's where the shift in what you do, what you say, how you say it, and how you present is going to change, because ultimately you're not trying to use a particular type of sales technique. You're just bringing somebody to the point where they want to agree with you, and therefore they're going to give you your commitment. Right. That's the part about communicating those ideas.
I did door-to-door sales a lot. I started at 18, and it's true. We used to go and door knock from 12 p.m. We used to get in the office at like 9, practice pitch till 11, hit the field by 12. 12 to 8. We used to take a 30-minute break at 3 o'clock. It was a system. Monday through Friday, and then Saturdays we did the exact same thing, but instead of 8, we finished at 6. And then Sunday was a day to rest. And it's true, man. Even if it was raining, here's what we were taught by the trainers and the leaders in that company. They said every day that you miss on the field, you're adding 2 or 3 weeks to your time on the field. It's because the goal was to get your own office and override an office, right? And it was true. When it was raining, we knocked on doors. If it said no soliciting, we still solicit. And let me tell you something, we sold a lot to no soliciting signs.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of people didn't talk to them. So sometimes they'd be very closed off, more so than others. But a lot of times they actually would be open. The reason why is because they don't get pissed that much. You know what I'm saying? And so tell me about those times. What was the system? How was it that it worked? Were you guys on a schedule or?
It was very, very similar. I mean, we used to be able to get into what was called an impact meeting, not very different than what this building looks like here. And there were obviously different systems that were set in place, things that you had to memorize, things that you had to say, certain expressions. There were certain rituals, like, you hit a certain production level, you would ring the bell and, stuff like that, right? Sure. And it was all meant to motivate people and get them on the right mental track, right? So we had 8 steps of success. You have to learn the 5 parts of a sale and all of these different things. Nice. And it was drilled into your mind each and every day. And so if you had a bad week and you were seeing other people succeed, then you realized it wasn't what you were doing. It was you needed to improve in something else. That's right. And so that really does help, is that being in an environment where you could actually learn from other people and see that it is possible. Because if you're out there trying to do it on your own, and you don't have a support system, and you don't have a mentor, you don't have somebody that you could look up to, it can be very daunting when it does rain, and it seems like it's raining every day, even though when it's sunny outside, but nothing's happening. Yeah. But when you're able to tap into resources like your podcast, for example, where you can see that other people are doing it, and that you can see that it's not the government's fault, it's not the economy's fault, it's not who's in the White House, it's not this and that. It's whatever you're going to make of that day. It's going to be ultimately up to you.
Like Jim Rohn says, he says the same wind blows on us all.
Absolutely.
The wind of disaster, the wind of opportunity, the wind of change. And so very often, sometimes people in the same company, in the same industry, same office or same team, and they're complaining about why they're not having results and stuff, and they're blaming everything but themselves. But it's like, bro, you have the same opportunity that these other people on stage getting recognized have.
That's right.
And then at the end of the day, I learned a long time ago in team building, you work with the willing. There's 3 rules to building. Prospect is everything. Fortune's in the follow-up, and work with the willing. Now, the willing are the ones that are showing up to the training, the ones that are showing up to work, the ones that are being consistent. And we also work with those that deserve it, not those that need it. The reason why is because those that need it because they're not plugging in. They're not doing the personal growth. They're not following the system or whatever the case may be, right? And so, yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying. And
well, I'll tell you one thing. I mean, and this is something that I've noticed. I've known you for now almost a decade.
Yeah.
And every time that you've been to a training that either I've hosted or somehow we wound up in the same place at the same time for whatever reason, you're front row, front and center.
Right.
No distractions, cell phone off.
Yeah.
And you're there with pen and paper or an iPad or whatever you're doing, taking notes.
Yeah.
You're listening intently.
Yeah.
And taking notes.
It's true. It's true.
Those are the mechanics. I mean, there's no shortcuts to it. It's just very the system is simple, but it's not easy.
Right.
Because we're dealing with human beings, and we're emotional creatures, and so we're subject to. And this is something that's very real for me. I don't believe in motivation. I don't think motivation is going to get you like those impact meetings, and they're great, and a lot of people do need them.
Right.
I'm not a very emotional person, so I really don't need that.
Right.
Because. I don't want to be motivated. I want to be inspired. If I'm inspired, if what I'm selling, whatever is the service, I know that it's going to better your life, or it's going to better your situation, or it's going to better your health, or whatever it is. If I know 100% that I'm doing something for you that's going to be better for you, then I'm inspired. I'm not motivated.
Got it.
So nobody's going to shut me up.
Got it.
But motivation will get you to the first obstacle.
Right.
And if you're not inspired and you're just motivated, that's where you're going to stop.
So you need motivation, inspiration, and also discipline.
Discipline and inspiration, brother.
Right. Those are more important than the motivation.
Way more important than motivation. Motivation will get you to go sign up at a gym. Inspiration will get you to actually go.
That's right. No, it's true. I mentioned to people, look, motivation is great. You're going to learn some stuff in the trainings and you're going to get motivated. But the world is full of temporarily motivated people.
Yep.
The majority of the world, they're temporarily motivated. And so there's that discipline. Because discipline doesn't care how you feel. Discipline says, hey, listen, this is what we're going to do because we said we're going to do it. This is what we wrote down that we're going to do. These are what our goals are. These are our DMO, our daily method of operation. And I'm going to do it even though I don't feel like it, right? So, no, I completely understand. Before I was married, before I had kids, I was more driven than I am now. I'm still driven. I just like to work a lot smarter. I find one of the things about me when I was younger is I used to make good money and I didn't really invest back into my business so much, right? Like a personal assistant, right? Now that I'm older, I value that time because I've got my family. So I have an assistant who has an assistant now, right? And so, but what that does is I work very good during the day. I've got a to-do list. We've got a system in place, but I don't work as aggressive as before. Before, my philosophy was January 1st, I didn't take it off. January 1st, I used to famously put videos on January 1st on social media. I'm out here in the field. I'm not taking it. I took yesterday off, but today is the first of the year. Why start on the 2nd? Now I do take the first of the year off. You know what I mean? And I'm okay with taking the first of the year off. But I also, it's that wisdom, right? I learned a long time ago, and we're going to get into this, about King Solomon, right? And how he asked God for wisdom, right? And because he asked God for wisdom, he gave him a lot more than wisdom, right?
Correct.
And I learned that from a friend a long time ago, and I started years ago asking God for wisdom, because we need wisdom to lead people, to lead our families, right? And to do these things. So that's one of the things that I want to get into with you as well, is because I know you know a lot about the Bible and stuff. And to me, it's fascinating how many lessons there is in the Bible, right, about life. And whether people are not believing it or not, hey, listen, at the end of the day, what do you say when you do a training on the Bible? You say, this is old Jewish wisdom or something like that?
Yeah, it's all Jewish wisdom. That's
right.
All it is. Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
right.
Yeah.
So tell me about some principles, some biblical principles that have helped you out in business, bro.
Oh my gosh. How long is this podcast for? See, people don't realize, they think, they have their preconceived notions about the Bible, and really the Bible is historically accurate. You want to learn about history? Read the Bible. You want to learn about archaeology? Read the Bible. You want to read about science? Read the Bible. You want to read about family and personal development and relationship management? Read the Bible. You want to learn about God? Read the Bible. Yeah. You want to know what God wants about you, what you should do in your life, and purpose and meaning and all that? Read the Bible. It's all there.
That's right.
I can't think of any significant contribution into the personal development realm that has not been taken from the Bible and just taking God out of it.
Right.
But it all stems back. It was already written.
Right.
So I'll give you a perfect example. There's been studies at MBA students at Harvard. There's been studies in different world-renowned universities that have taught, goal setting or writing things down.
Sure.
And we talk about that. And right now, over the next 2 weeks, people are going to do this very thing, right? And then they're going to forget about it. They're not going to do it. They're not going to follow the mechanics behind it, or they're simply just not going to do it no matter how many times you tell them to do it. But it has been proven that if you write your goals down, you have a 47% increased chance of actually hitting it.
Just by writing them down?
Just by writing them down.
Wow.
47%.
Right.
Now, if you're already hitting every single goal that you have and everything, then don't do it.
Right.
But if you haven't, that one simple thing has 47%
That's nuts.
chances of you actually acquiring it. Now, you go to the Bible in a little very not one of the most popular books. It's called Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 2. It says, "Write the vision down." It's God telling Moses, "Write the vision down. Write it upon tablets, so that it is readily visible to everybody that walks by it."
Wow.
It's not just writing it down.
Yes.
It's being able to visually see it all the time. Now tell me, how many personal development books have not taught that exact same concept? It's already written 4,000, 5,000 years ago.
Right.
But nobody knows about it because they don't take the time to read the Bible.
That's right. That's right. It's true.
Give an example. Proverbs. You brought up Proverbs. Proverbs is full. I mean, there's a specific verse in Proverbs that tells you should learn how to be a good salesperson. And it's in Proverbs.
It says that?
Absolutely, it says that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Not only that, it says the diligent will attract the attention of kings and rulers.
The diligent.
That
That is very true.
You can't be diligent without what?
Discipline.
Without discipline.
That's right.
It's hard about discipline. So all of these things that we read in these books in personal development, you can find them all over, scattered in the Bible, bro. They're there. Paul is talking about the renewing of the minds. In Chronicles, in Corinthians, he's talking about taking every thought captive, which in positivism, right, which is taught in personal development and many other things, they tell you, hey, you gotta grab that thought and you gotta replace it. Well, guess what? It's already written in the Bible. Take every thought captive.
Right.
What does that mean? You're going to take every thought captive and subjective to the Word of God. So in other words, if things are not going your way, if you think you can't do it, I'm too old, I'm too slow, I don't have the resources, I don't have the education, whatever it is, your mind is believing a lie.
Right.
But you got to take that thought captive. This is what Paul says. Take that thought captive and subject it to Christ Jesus. So we have to remember what God says about you, what God says about JC, what God says about you. He says that you can do all things in Christ Jesus.
Right.
It's possible.
Right.
So he turns the impossible possible, right? That's the truth. The truth is that you are redeemed. The truth is that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. But what lie are you listening to? What lie are you believing that's stopping you from achieving your goals?
That's true. And a lot of people are listening to let's face it, most people's influences, they're not positive influences. They certainly don't know this information. They don't listen to this information. And people are capable of so much, but they don't even realize what they're capable of. And part of the reason why is because your association. I learned a long time ago to surround myself with people that are smarter than me, people that I can learn from. And I try to bring as much value as I can. Don't get me wrong. But I'm also very conscious. Not only am I conscious of the thoughts in my mind, I think about what I'm thinking about. Now, I unconsciously dismiss negative thoughts, right? And so you've known me at times where I've made a lot of money and at times where I was broke and then at times where I've made a lot of money, right?
Ditto.
Exactly, right? And so, but in those tough times, sometimes even though it's like riding a bike, right? Being successful and achieving success in this industry or in another industry, the person that's successful can go out there and achieve it again. I remember one time I had to tell myself in the mirror, hey, you're still JC Rangel. You're still the guy that did this and this and this in the past, because your mind will attack you. Those thoughts, right? Those thoughts don't come, and those thoughts and those words don't come back void. Doesn't the Bible say that? In the tongue lies the power of what?
Life and death.
Life and death. And so, but a lot of people, and I just taught on this on Monday, they don't realize about their dominating thoughts. They're negative. Like you said, I'm too young, I'm too old, I'm too this, I'm too that. Hey, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? If one man can go out there and accomplish something big, another man can accomplish something big, right?
Yeah. I think when the tough times come, you have to remember that you're not buried in debt, right? Think about it like a seed. And the Bible always talks about things that sprout. It talks about seeds and fruit and flourishing. And I'm always wondering, why is it always about farming and agriculture? But if you take a lesson in a seed can be put into the ground, and apparently it's buried, right?
Right.
And that it could be stomped on. It could be the weather. It's gonna rain on it. It's gonna do all these things. You put concrete over it.
It's true.
But that seed isn't dead and buried. That seed is just planted.
Right.
So when you're going through your season, you got to remember that you're not dead and buried. You're simply planted. And that seed, as long as it's there and you keep the right mindset, you keep the right attitude. And there's a recipe for this. Really, if you want to go from the spiritual side, which is what I recommend, whether you believe in God or you don't believe in God, is irrelevant. The principles that were written down in the Bible are going to work. Like, for example, law of attraction.
Sure.
We call it, sowing and reaping in the Bible.
Right, it's true.
But it was there and it works. Why does it work? Because it was already put into place by the divine God that makes it work.
Right.
So whether you believe in him or not, gravity's still going to work, right? He set it up. So if we go up on this building and we jump off, we're still going to fall and we're probably going to die.
Right.
Whether you acknowledge his existence or not.
True.
Gravity exists.
Yes.
Period. So law of attraction, it works. Why? Because it's a principle that he came up with, right? Sowing and reaping. Same thing with the mentality of gratitude, right? The Bible says it, right? That when you're a grateful person,
right,
you're going to be more likely to succeed. It's written in the Bible.
Wow.
So when you keep that attitude, that little seed that maybe has a concrete on top of it or whatever, can break right through. It doesn't matter what the challenge is, as long as you keep that connection with your spiritual creator. Right.
What advice would you give to somebody right now that maybe they don't have the right influences around, right?
Seek them out. See, I had a conversation with a gentleman way back when I was in real estate and I was doing real estate sales. And he got a coach. And he was paying a god awful amount of money. I think like $2,000 a month or something for his coach, and he wouldn't miss it. And there were phone calls and this, that, and the other, and I was already the top producer in the office, and he was telling me, hey, you should sign up with my coach. And I go, well, I'm already top producer in the office. And he goes, yeah, well, imagine where you can get to. And he had a point, right? And he goes, so I didn't argue that. Sure. But then he asked me, what is your budget for personal development? And I said, $25.
$25
a month.
Got it.
And he's like, what? And I go, yeah. There's absolutely nothing that you cannot find in a book.
That's true.
There's nothing. I mean, do I discourage anybody from getting a mentor? No, I encourage it. But if you can't afford it at this point, get a library card. It's free.
Right.
Anything and everything that you want to find is written in a book. And now it's even easier. You can go on YouTube. You can go on social media. There's so much content out there. Some of it's good. Some of it's trash.
Sure.
But you can find the good ones. And there's some that are still available for zero. It's your time.
And if you're diligent, you mentioned diligent, you will go through the bad stuff and find the good stuff.
Absolutely.
You will go through the bad podcast. I have a couple of podcasts I listen to like all the time. I listen to them. If I'm brushing my teeth, instead of watching gossip, I don't watch gossip stuff. I watch some of this stuff. Yeah. Here's what I watch on my phone. Personal development, like podcasts, and like MMA news and crypto news. Those are the three things. And Bible prophecy. 4 things what I watch. I can't think of things outside of those things, bro, that I watch. You know what I'm saying? That I listen to. And so, and I have, like in the mornings, I like to listen to some of these podcasts. I listen to Ed Milet's podcast. He's got a great podcast. The Empire podcast, the Dropping Bombs podcast. And so, because I'm constantly feeding my mind, and I listen, like right now, I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, as you're talking, I'm thinking, I'm going to get this as a 7-minute clip, 10-minute clip, however long that was when you're talking about these principles of the Bible. And I'm going to share this on social media because it's so incredibly powerful. And so many people, the thing is that it's so easy, but it's easier not to do it. It's easier to get distracted.
Well, think about this. When and I don't know if this happens to you, it happens to me all the time. On my way, I'm going to create some content. I'm going to do a PowerPoint. I'm going to do something for Elevate.
Sure.
If you want to talk about that, we can.
Absolutely.
But, and I get there, and the whole thing, I haven't been praying. I'm saying, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this and that. And then I go in here and I turn on my computer, and suddenly I get a notification, and it's Trump said this. What did he say? And COVID this. Well, where did that happen?
Right.
And you before you know it, you've lost 35 minutes, 45 minutes, maybe even an hour just going down a rabbit hole of stuff that is really meaningless in the grand scheme of things. And so that you're right, there's so many distractions that just take you away from what you need to be doing.
That is true.
And so being able to find that quiet time to just focus on what's important and take away all of those distractions is sometimes a pretty challenging thing to do, but you got to do it.
I keep it old school and simple. I have a notepad that is strictly for to-dos. Okay. I was just talking to my sales organization on Monday. Mm-hmm. Mary Kay, right? The owner of Mary Kay, before she passed, at the time her company was worth $3 billion. And they asked her, what is one tip, one key to success that you could give people to be successful? She says, every day I write down 6 or 7 things that I must get done throughout the day that are very important for me to accomplish that day. And I just make sure that those 6, 7 things get accomplished for the day. And when I heard this, I actually heard this last week. I was like, such a simple concept, and it's true. I sit down and I know I'm not going to look at social media. I'm not going to do none of that stuff because it's easy to get caught up in that. And I've got a to-do list. The people that work for me, we have an online to-do list, and everybody can see everybody's tasks. And at the end of the day, those tasks have to be drastically brought down. The ones that I write down, for the most part, I try to get everything knocked down. And it's such a simple thing. But before I used to do to me, the to-do list, again, it's just a simple notepad. Just writing it down and then making sure that it's done by the time the day is done, that has made a huge impact in my business. For me,
very cool.
I just kept it very simple,
Yeah. Well, you mentioned you have a sales organization, JC, and I got to tell you, I want to give value to your podcast and to the people that are listening to you right now, because these are 2 things that really changed. Now, I'm not going to say it changed my life, but really impacted my life completely as it relates to sales. and business.
Sure.
First book is Spin Selling.
Spin selling.
Right. And I'm going to give you my referral code. No, I'm just kidding. I don't have any of that. But Spin Selling was written by a man named Neil Rackman. And Neil Rackman he took the scientific approach to sales calls.
Oh.
So he went around with the top, I forget, maybe 50 or 100 different top producers from the top 500 companies, Fortune 500 companies.
Got it.
So it's not theoretical, it's practical, right? So it's a practical approach where he audited and sat through these presentations. It took years to put this together. It took 25 years of research to put this book together. And at the end of that, in those 25,000 sales calls that were done, it came to an approach that the top income earners would follow, which is the SPIN mechanism, the methodology, which stands an acronym. It stands for situational, problem, implication, and need payoff. And so when you follow that methodology, regardless of whether you have tangible or intangible high ticket sales, which I believe you're involved in with your company, it's going to make a dramatic change in how you obtain commitment. So
interesting.
Have all of your organization read that book. It actually has a follow-up book, which is a workbook. So you can actually go through the workbook with everybody.
I'm going through the whole
so that they can actually get to that level. And it's just a system of being able to ask the right questions, the right type of questions, and at the right timing within the sales presentation. It's phenomenal. So that's one. The second thing is to be able to go out and read The Richest Man Who Ever Lived. Now, I know you mentioned King Solomon, you talked about wisdom. Well, the gentleman that wrote this particular book had failed, I think, like 13 times. He was an entrepreneur, failed entrepreneur. But he didn't stop. He kept going. So he goes to his pastor and says, "Hey, pastor, I suck, right? What can I do, right?" And he goes, "Okay, look, this is what you're going to do for the next 2 years. You are going to read the book of Proverbs, 1 chapter a day. And you're going to do that for 2 years. And then come back and talk to me." And then he goes, at the end of those 2 years, if you follow what you learned in the book of Proverbs, you're going to become a multimillionaire.
Wow.
Now, if somebody tells you that, JC, it's like, hey, you know what? You're going to read a chapter a day because, the book of Proverbs has 31 chapters.
Yes.
So one for each day of the month, unless it's one of those weird months like February.
Right.
So if somebody told you that to go and do that, would you do it?
Would I do it?
Yeah. I mean, would anybody do it, right? It's like
would.
somebody comes and says, okay, you're going to read this book a chapter a day, and then 2 years later, you're going to be a multimillionaire?
I mean, I wouldn't believe it, but I'd probably do it.
Well, the guy believed it, and he went and he read it, and he did that for 2 years, and he is not just a he's like he's just huge, an incredibly wealthy man. And he put everything he learned in those 2 years of studying the root meanings in Greek and in the original text.
Yes.
And he put it down in this book. It's called The Richest Man Who Ever Lived. And it is absolutely one of the best books. Not religious at all. So if you have non-believers listening to this, it's not going to do anything to you. It's not going to do anything. Read it. It's ancient Jewish wisdom that's broken down for you in this book. And the results speak for themselves. I mean, the guy's just mega rich.
I'm going to get that book today. I read The Richest Man in Babylon.
Yeah. No. This is The Richest Man Who Ever Lived.
Interesting. It's about King Solomon.
Yes.
Interesting.
And the author is Stephen Scott.
Okay, got it. I'm getting that book. I'm
those
getting
two
both
books.
those books.
You put those 2 books in your sales organization, watch it explode.
I'm doing it. 100%. See, here's the thing about it. There's shortcuts in life. Mm-hmm. One of the shortcuts in life is simple. You copy success, right? And so I know your track record. I know what you've done. So when someone like you gives me this kind of advice, I cut the line. So I'm going to go through those books myself. I'm going to master them because I do trainings every week for my organization. Guess what? On leadership trainings, I'm going to train on some of these things as well, right? And then that also intrigues people in my sales organization to read these books and whatnot. But that's going to be a part definitely of the system that we've got.
Awesome.
Before we switch gears to this project that you're working that has a majority of your time, tell me a little bit before we switch gears on the importance of tithing. Ever since you and I started working together a couple of years ago, that's a normal thing that I do. I used to do it from time to time. I used to kind of look at the amount when it was a bigger amount, like, hey, that's kind of a lot. Now I don't look at it. Now it's a consistent thing. And I got to tell you something, bro. My business, and this is not why I did it. I did it out of faith, and I said, hey, this is what I want to do genuinely, but my business started skyrocketing. So could you talk a little bit about tithing and what it teaches?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, how long is the podcast? I mean, that's just that's a secret sauce.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just amazing when you have in your life a culture of honor. So that's what it's about to me.
Right.
It's a culture of honor. See, Jesus, when he came on earth, he was talking always about the kingdom. Always about the kingdom. The kingdom is at hand, right? He was talking about a kingdom. And he was royalty, right? He was royalty. He was king. Right. That's why we say King of Kings, Lord of Lords. To me, it's a culture of honoring my king. Right? Yes, there's obedience in there. Yes, there's all these different things. But I can tell you that when I started tithing, and I was completely anti-tithing. My background was religious, right? I was raised Jehovah's Witness, and they don't believe in tithing, right?
Yeah.
So to me, it was like something that was Old Testament, and it was the old Mosaic law, and we were free from that, right? That's how I used to believe in that. In fact, I thought it was very, very wrong to tithe. When I started practicing that principle, it was when I started network marketing. Actually, when I started network marketing, that's when it all started. And my wife made a commitment to God and said, we're going to tithe. And she didn't tell me about it, but she made that decision. She was saved before I was. She's the intelligent one of the family. Yeah. And if you know my wife, you know it's true what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's true. I agree.
And so, oh my gosh, I'm going to try to give you the abridged version of it. But so I wake up one morning, I'm expecting a really good paycheck, right? I think we'll make like 20 grand a month or something in our company. And we're going to get the paycheck for that week. And I told, so I wake up. And I always have this custom. I always sleep with a Bible next to me, right? And so back then, and so I started reading the Bible in the morning, and I was reading from, I don't know, Psalms or something. And then my wife woke up, and I told her, hey, I just saw our check is here, blah blah blah. I want to go out, and I wanted to buy some equipment. I wanted to buy a really expensive computer, da da da. And she's like, hey, yeah, but you know what? Just wait on that because. Remember, I did an agreement with God, and we're gonna tithe. Yeah. And I'm like, whoa. I mean, you didn't consult this with me.
Right.
And she's like, no, I told you that I had made that commitment. And I go, well, no, you didn't get my approval, right?
Right.
And so, and she's like, but no, I talked to you about it, and I already committed, and this and that, and so she felt bad, and I told her, you know what? We're living in California. We're legally married, and it's community property. So I'll tell you what, you can tithe from your half of our money, and you leave my half alone.
Oh wow, you said that time.
Straight up.
Wow.
I was like against it, and then my machismo kicked in too. Hey, you didn't tell me about this, right?
Right.
So anyway, long story short, we go out about our day and the whole thing. But I went back to the Bible. She went to shower, and I had been reading from a different book, but when I opened up the Bible again, supernaturally, bro, I wind up in the book of Acts. And in that book of Acts, it tells about a story of people that had committed a certain amount of land and then kind of reneged on it, and they fall dead.
Wow.
So God didn't answer me. Check this out. When you get sensitive to the voice of God, he may answer you not in the way you expect, because he did not answer to me whether or not I should tithe or not. His answer was, she made a commitment with me, you stay out of it. That was his answer.
Wow.
And so, long story short, we started tithing. We started tithing because of my wife.
Got it.
And, but once I learned that lesson, when God said, hey, she committed to me, don't stop her. I was obedient. I didn't stop her.
Yeah.
Even with my half.
Right.
And just our business exploded. Our meetings went from maybe 25 people,
right,
to, if you didn't get there by 7, 25 people once a week.
Right.
If you did not get to our office before 7 o'clock, you weren't getting in. It was 100 people, and it was standing room only.
Wow.
And then went from 1 meeting a week to 5 meetings a week, and then Saturday trainings.
Really?
So we went from an empty parking lot to just a full parking lot every single night of the week.
Wow.
And this was 15 years ago. And what we did is we started to honor God with our tithes and our offerings.
Interesting.
And it was just absolutely changed. I mean, that's just one story. I could tell you more and more and more and more. But we'd be here like for a long time.
I heard that is the only place, the subject where God asks you to test them or something like that.
Yeah, that's in Malachi. That's in the book of Malachi. And God specifically is having a conversation with his people of Israel. And he says, hey, you're robbing me. And you know, his people says, how can man rob God? Well, you're robbing me in tithes and offerings. It wasn't just a tithe. So a lot of people think it was the expectation was just 10% of your earnings,
sure.
And which is the tithe. But an offering goes over and above that. An offering goes over and above the tithe. And so when you follow those principles and you realize that this is a very theological subject, right? So some people are going to say, no, we, you know, in the New Testament, nobody says 10%. That was Old Testament. And they're both right. Here's the thing. In the New Testament, you're called to be generous. So let me break it down to you this way. Let's say we have 100 pennies right here, JC. I say, you know what, JC? We're gonna share this. So I'm gonna take these 90 pennies and I'm gonna give you 10. Right? Because we just happen to find these right here.
Sure.
And I want to share them with you, but I'm taking 90 of them and I'm only giving you 10.
Right.
Is that cool?
I mean, that's not generous.
It's not generous, is it?
Right.
So if I say, okay, well, you know what? I'm going to give you those 10, but you know what? I'm going to give you another 10. So now you have 20 and I'm going to keep 80. Am I being generous?
Not really.
I don't know, right? I don't know.
That's true. That's true.
I don't know because I can't get into your conscience and you can't get into mine. But at what point do we call it generosity? And at what point do we call it a tithe and an offering?
That's true.
So I believe that we're held to a higher standard when Paul breaks it down and says, whoever gives generously will reap generously. Right. And those who sow sparingly are gonna reap sparingly.
Interesting.
So it's up to you, right? So in the Old Testament it was simple. It's 10%, then your offerings. If you actually did the math on all of it, it came out to like 21, 22% with all the different stuff that the Israelites had to do, right? But what does generosity mean today?
That's true.
Right? It's going to be different for each person.
That is very true. No, because in the example he gave...
Let me just say this about this whole subject. You cannot outgive God.
Right.
I've given a little, and every time I've given, it has been multiplied. I'll give you we had a company a few years ago, and I did an offering, and it was an offering that wasn't at my local church. It was a different church, and I did an offering at that church, and I wrote them a check, and I'm just going to give the amount. Not the Bible says, "Don't let your left hand do what you." It's not about that. It's just I want to show the power and the glory of God in this podcast, bro. Because I said to the pastor, and I said, Pastor, I want to pray for 100-time return. I'm believing for 100-time return. He says, you know what? We're going to pray for 1,000. So I get an offering of $3,000. The very next week, we did $3 million in sales.
What?
True story.
Wow.
It's all documented. It's documented.
Right. Yeah.
That's exactly how it went down.
3,000 to 3 million?
$3 million in sales, yeah.
That is 1,000-fold, right?
Yeah. Actually, I don't know. Maybe it's more. No, but I think that's what it is, yeah.
That's crazy, man.
So, does it work? Absolutely. Bro, every single thing that I have in my life has come because I've honored God with my finances.
I hear people talk about the debate, like, is that, on the gross? Is that on the net? Me, as the money comes in, I just take the percentage. 10%, boom, and I take it to the ministry.
Yeah.
It's just what I do. Sometimes I may do a little bit more, right? But I didn't know the difference between tithes and offerings. Yeah. Now I know. That's good.
No, it's over and above. Yeah. And when you really see, if you add to that, when you want a specific breakthrough in your life, and I don't know who's hearing this podcast or who's going to hear it. I don't even know if it's live. I don't know how this all works. But if you're struggling, if you're going through something, you practice the tithes and the offerings, but you add to that one more ingredient, two more, which is prayer and fasting. It's just going to be breakthrough every single time. Every single time is breakthrough. Every time.
Tithes and offerings with prayer and fasting.
Absolutely. And that's what Jesus would do. At every juncture where something big was going to happen in Jesus' ministry, he took time to be alone, to get away from the distractions, to get away from the people, so you can spend time alone with God.
So when you do that, for example, fasting, what does that mean exactly, right? Like, how long do you fast for, and what do you fast for?
You know, it's going to be very specific for each person, right? What they're going to fast for.
Right.
Sometimes you fast because you want to break through in a particular area of your life.
Sure.
It could be a particularly challenging thing that's happening. You know, maybe it's for something in a relationship, or maybe it's your business, or maybe it's a legal matter, or maybe it's addiction, or maybe whatever it is. But you're fasting to get closer to God, to get that spiritual connection going. And if you add to that honoring God with your provision, it's going to be powerful. And see, this is where I think a lot of people miss it. And hopefully I could be candid with this.
Sure.
You don't have to believe what I'm saying. I'm not a theologian. I'm just talking about my own personal experience. Sure. Is that I hear a lot of folks say, well, you know, I tithe and I do offerings, but, you know, I do it and I don't expect anything from God, right? I do it because I love God, and that's all good. But here's the thing. The people that feel weirded out by having an expectation, the problem is they don't have a relationship with God. You see, my relationship with God is I believe I'm his favorite son. He's my father.
Right.
He's my father in heaven.
Right.
So when I go to God, I'm going to my father. That's what I'm going for. That's what the Bible says, that we have now been adopted. And we're in the car. We're in the family.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So we have all the rights of an inheritance. Right? So when I go to God, I go like I would be going to my father here on earth. Right? And so when I ask for a blessing from God, whether it's financial or whatever area, I have an expectation that it's going to happen. And so when we go to God with this and I call it, sometimes it's a self-serving humility, right? Yeah, I just give, but you know, I don't expect anything in return. Well, the Bible tells you that God is going to give you the desires of your heart. So if you don't want nothing, then he's not going to give you anything.
Right.
Because that's your desire.
Right. It's true. He does say that.
That's what it says. David said, God gives me the desires of my heart.
Right.
So if I'm giving and I'm not expecting anything in return, number one, then I shouldn't expect anything, right?
Sure.
Do we agree?
Yes.
But here's what happens in Genesis, right when this started. It wasn't even God's idea. It was Jacob's idea to tell God, hey, if you bring me through the land, and if you dress me, and if you feed me, and if you keep me safe, then you will be my God, and I will give you 10% of everything you give me.
Is that what he said?
That's exactly what he said.
Wow.
Now, think about that for a second. Jacob, his father was Isaac, his grandfather was Abraham, the father of faith.
Yeah.
There's no way Jacob didn't know who Abraham was, because the stories were given down orally, right? And everybody knew who was who.
Yeah.
And everybody knew Abraham was the Rockefeller of his time, right? So there's no way Jacob didn't know who Abraham was. And the promise that he had over his generations. So right before Jacob actually says that to God in a dream, God is confirming to Jacob that the same blessings of Abraham were going to be for him. He wakes up and he says, yeah, Lord, but you know what? If you bring me through the land, and if you do this, and if you do this, and if you do that, then you will be my God. And I asked myself a question. I said, well, wasn't he already his God?
Right.
But here's what happened. When he did that, he actually built an altar to God and made a covenant. A covenant, a pact. That's stronger than a contract. That's stronger than giving your word. That's a pact, a covenant with God over his finances and his provision, with an expectation that God was going to hold up his end of the deal.
Wow. And God did?
And God did.
That's powerful, man. See, I'm going to listen to this. I'm going to take down notes of some of these stories that you're mentioning, and I'm going to go study them on my own.
I don't believe me. Go read it in the Bible, bro.
No. I believe you, because I know you're not going to say something that's not true, especially when it comes to the Bible. You know what I mean? I say that because I want to learn the stuff the way that you do. You know what I mean? Like, I wish I knew this information the way that you do, but I will, right? Like, we got to start somewhere. It's powerful, man. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit more, switching gears a little bit, tell me a little bit about the project that you're involved in. What do you got going on?
Well, hopefully, this will be ready by the first. We're pushing really hard to get it done. We're, providing a lot of different content, a lot of different teachings, all of them spiritual, all of them come directly from Scripture. Again, I want to say I'm not a theologian. I'm not a Bible scholar. I don't have a degree from, Liberty, Justice, or whatever the school, but I've been studying the Bible my whole life, right? Mm-hmm. And so I just want to share with other people what God has done in my life, specifically in the areas of business and finance. It's one of the spheres where I operate in, and I believe that God has really blessed me and elevated me to a point where it's now time to help other people to get to that point as well. Right. So we started a nonprofit. It's a public charity. Okay. And it's called Elevate. So we picked that name because it's the same thing in English as it is in Spanish.
Right.
Elevate.
That's true.
And Elevate has the same meanings, and I think we got to get to that level. And really, our verse, which is renewing of your mind, which is I mentioned a little while ago with Paul, chapter 12, verse 2, it talks about a renewing of the mind, and you really need to do that in order to be able to get to the next level in life, which is to elevate, right, in all areas, right? Not just finances. It could be family or anything else that you want to have a breakthrough. And Elevate operates in that world of, and I say this cautiously because depending on your belief system, right, whether it's Christian or otherwise, many times a religious perspective kind of creeps in and keeps people where they're at, and has an escapist theology where, we're saved. Yeah, we are saved, and we are waiting for, life after death or the whole thing. But that's an escapist. When Jesus came, he didn't just come to save us in the future when we die, but to bring, if you read Isaiah chapter 61, everything that comes with that salvation, actually the word that he uses, completes you in every area of your life. And so, which is so if you want to look it up in the Greek. And so that's where I think we've done a good job as human beings, as creating religious structures, but we haven't done as good of a job of actually emphasizing the relationship with God to have the right breakthroughs in your finances, the right breakthroughs in your family, the right breakthroughs in addiction, the right breakthroughs in different areas. And so Elevate is for that. We're setting up both online and offline events. We're out of Fontana. We have a church building in Fontana. We're going to be starting English sermons there. But we're also going to be doing them online as well, both in English and in Spanish. So, that's about 80% of my focus right now is going to Elevate and the content that's there, and hopefully everybody will enjoy it. Should be out in January.
Good. Yeah. So do you guys have a website for that yet, or?
That's what's the website and everything is right now in the last little things little touches that are going to be changing and should be launching in January. Yeah.
Do you have the domain name already? People check out?
No, I don't actually. Carla's going to kill me because I should have brought that, but it is. We do have it. I just don't remember if it's for IO or. Okay. I don't know. Maybe she'll text me right now.
When it comes out, we could share that in the description of the video.
If you can put it in there, I'll send it to you.
Absolutely. That way people can check it out.
We have it. Yeah. But I'm excited about it. It's we're going to be giving out grants. I want to do the first company that Elevate is really sponsoring formally. I mean, you know me. I love helping out entrepreneurs where I can, and but this is a more of a formal setting to be able to do that. So people are going to be able to apply for our grants. And then the first company that we're sponsoring is called Easy Cool, and they're an air conditioning company. Okay. And this gentleman he has an entrepreneur spirit. He's been working in air conditioning for a very long time, and but he wants to go and he wants to level up. He wants to start his own thing, and he needed a little help on some of the administrative things that needed to go with that. So Elevate stepped in, gave him a grant, and you're going to be seeing that launch in January as well.
That's awesome.
So that's pretty cool.
You're paying it forward.
Paying it forward, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's what it's all about, man.
That's what it's all about, brother.
It is.
You got to pull people up with you.
That's right. Because it's lonely at the top.
Well, that's what you're doing right now.
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
That's what your podcast is doing, is pulling people up.
Yeah. That, you know what? That is indeed what we're doing, and that's why we have guests like you on here, right? That's why we ask the questions, and I'm learning a lot, but I want this information to get out there because there's a lot of information out there, but there's not enough still, you know what I mean? And hey, if we could contribute a little bit to that, that'd be awesome. So what are the opportunities on the business side that you see, Danny, in the next 10, 20 years that people can get involved in, whether it's industries or investments or whatever? Of course, it's not investment advice or anything like that, but
Right.
what are some opportunities that you see? Because the world is changing fast, man. So what are
Very
some
fast.
opportunities that you see?
Blockchain, crypto, NFTs, augmented reality. I mean,
It's true.
That's those
The
four right
metaverse.
there are pretty much
Yeah,
safe bets.
that's right.
Yeah, I mean, I've made a lot of money in the industry of that has to do with crypto, blockchain, all these different things. Real estate. That's never going to go out of style. They're not making any more of it unless you go to the metaverse. But,
Right. That's true.
So all of those are. I mean, there are opportunities. We might laugh at them right now, but I'll tell you what. People were laughing on David Letterman about,
The internet.
about the .coms back
That's right.
way back in the day. They were laughing, and I think it was an interview with Bill Gates, and Letterman was just like pretty much laughing, ridiculing
Yeah.
the .coms, and
It's
look
true.
what happened. And now you have virtual real estate, and we may not understand it. I don't understand crypto. I don't understand blockchain. I don't understand. I'm not a nerd. I didn't sit
Sure.
there and figure it out instead of playing Dungeons and Dragons,
Right, right.
But somebody did, and guess what? It's not going out of style.
It's not.
We got Visa, MasterCard, and they're all over crypto.
You know what's
It's
interesting?
not going away.
Talking about stuff like that online and virtual real estate. I own Gala coin and Gala nodes. On one of their major games, I forget what it's called. I think it's called Miranda's or something. Again, I'm not a gamer either. I just saw the opportunity. Somebody a lot smarter than me. My buddy put me on it, and I did very well with it. And I still, have it. He put a bid to buy a castle inside of this game for $1.6 million, bro. And they didn't accept it. You know what it sold for? $16 million.
Good Lord.
A castle inside of a game, bro.
Wow.
A castle inside of a game sold for 16 million bucks. And now with the metaverse and everything coming out, yes, man, there's huge opportunities there. I don't understand it, just like NFTs. But guess what?
Yeah.
I'm going to learn from them, and I'm going to connect myself with people that are smarter than me, because there's some big opportunities that are coming.
And that's, I think everybody needs to keep their mind open, because
Yep.
if you would have told me that we were all going to be ordering our groceries online, and
Right.
we weren't going to be going to the supermarket, we're going to order clothes and toys and this and that, it was all going to be done online, I would have been like, wow, what are you talking
Just
about?
20 years ago, that
Exactly. But what happened? Amazon, the same space that Amazon grew by 2,000%, every other billion-dollar company went down by 50%.
Wow.
The writing's on the wall. I mean, it's been on the wall.
Yeah.
This was 4 years ago, the stats I just gave you.
Right.
I don't even know what they are now. I know that online retail has surpassed
Oh, yeah.
2 years ago, normal retail.
True.
Right? But it's the writing's on the wall.
It is.
Everything's going digital, including our money, including our banking, including everything. So if you can get into those spaces, as quickly as possible.
So, hey, listen, you just mentioned something. We're going digital, banking, cryptocurrency, and all that stuff. How do you think the XRP lawsuit, in your opinion, is going to go?
Oh my gosh. I think how it's gonna go, or ultimately how XRP is gonna do.
Ultimately.
I think ultimately XRP it's gonna be a little blip, and we're gonna get past it, and everything's gonna be fine.
I agree.
I think everything's gonna be fine, 100%. I mean, I haven't seen it. It was at 80.
It went back up to 97 yesterday.
Well, you should have bought it at 80.
It's true. It's true. I think it hit 70. I think it
Yeah.
hit 70.
Yeah.
I just hold a lot already, so I'm like,
And again, I'm not an economist. I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah.
a financial expert. I'm not giving any advice, but I see it going to $5 very easily in the next few years. Yeah.
wow. I agree. That's exciting times, man.
But this is not advice, so.
It's true. It's not financial advice by any means. This is our opinions. We're having a conversation here, right? That's exciting. So another industry that I think is booming, which is why I'm involved in it, and that I think is the future, is renewable energy, electric vehicles, and solar panels.
Yeah,
right. It's
absolutely.
So my philosophy was a year and a half ago, I'm going to get involved in a couple of booming industries that I know. I forgot which one of the billionaires in the world said it, and I say this very often. He said, find out where the masses are. If you want to get wealthy, find out where the masses are going and get there first.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that the masses are going renewable energy. I know that electric vehicles, 2035, every car must be an electric vehicle here in California. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the future. And they're going to charge them. They're even going to feel weird charging their electric car at home without solar panels. And then, of course, cryptocurrency. You and I have been involved in crypto for a long time. NFTs, the metaverse. The metaverse is going to be huge. The metaverse is going to be huge. And so, hey, I'm excited to see what the future holds in store. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Look, whatever area in technology right now that's offering innovation, get in it as quickly as possible.
Yeah, right.
Because that's where everything's going.
Yeah, it's true.
Everything.
It's true. To wrap up here, what is some advice, brother, that you would give to a struggling either entrepreneur or a struggling salesperson? Tithes,
offering, prayer, and fasting.
I love it. That's awesome.
I mean, beyond that, if you wanted to go into the mechanics of what to do, if you're a salesperson, you got to find yourself out. Are you passionate about what it is that you're representing? And is what you're representing a real benefit to somebody else? Is there real value in what you're giving?
Right.
Because sometimes when you're not doing well, it might be because the value offering proposition really isn't there, and you're not seeing a benefit that happens. Because if you could be really passionate about the benefit that it does, whether it's health or financially or whatever impact that product or service is going to do for the recipient, then you can get behind it 100%. And I think that when you shift towards that, it'll work. Now, the other thing is, are you working with all of the tools available for you, right? Because I remember we were at an event that you put on a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And I remember that there was a gal that was doing millions and millions of dollars in sales, and she was doing it with paid advertising on Facebook.
Yes, true.
I think she owned a gym.
Yeah.
Okay. And there was another guy goes up and he says, "Oh, I'm old school. I don't use that. I cold call 1,000 people a day." And
right.
I was like, "Okay, but you don't have to do it that way. Why are you doing it that way?" So if you're in sales, right, you're commission only, and you're happening to represent a company that's giving you a yellow pages and here dial, then you may not be in the right place.
That's right.
And sometimes. And I found this out throughout my career, the best way to give yourself a raise is quit and go to the competition. Go to whoever's actually doing it right and learn from them.
That's right.
And sometimes when you get stuck and you're stuck in a rut, it's because you're the wrong team, the wrong people, the wrong product, the wrong organization.
Yep, it's true.
Yeah.
And that's also assuming that this person is also doing the necessary things to be successful, right? They're not like staying at home. They're not showing up.
Correct.
90% of success is showing up too,
Yep.
right? Sometimes people ask this question is like, where you been all week, right? Like how many people have you talked to, right?
Yeah. Now, for entrepreneurs specifically, there's a lot of money out there. Whether it's in a capital raise, whether it's an A+ raise, whether it's a 506C, there's tools and mechanisms in place that you could put together with pennies on the dollar that'll keep you compliant, will make it legal, will make it function in a perfect way, and then there's free money. There's cheap money out there that, because of the times that we're living in, are available through different government programs. And so the more you dive into that and find out about cheap money, 3.75, an SBA loan for 30 years that you don't have to pay back starting in 2 years, that's a resource that you need to tap into.
It's true.
It's there, right? We've gotten hit really hard in the economy. So those programs are there for the entrepreneurs. And if you're living in an area in a zip code that happens to be the zip codes that they want to cater to because they're underdeveloped, they don't have the right opportunities that other zip codes have, like 90210 or whatever, right?
Right, exactly.
These programs aren't for them,
right?
But they are for programs where you're living in other areas that might be more minority driven, right? And so, if that's the case, take advantage of this cheap money. It's there for a really good purpose to get your business back on track. Then there's grants, which is free money. And you just you got to find those resources. So if anybody wants any more information on that, I can pass it on to you. And
sure.
But those, I would really, a lot of things that don't go from the stage of a dream to an actual minimum valuable product is that they don't have the right financing behind it, and that's where a lot of people are going to fail.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
I love it, man. My friend Danny, I appreciate you coming out, bro. I know you're very busy.
Thank you for having me.
Man, I'm so happy that you came out. I haven't seen you in a couple of months. We talk often, but I haven't seen you in a couple of months, and I appreciate you coming. You shared some incredible wisdom, bro, so I appreciate you coming out, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
God bless you, brother.
Thank you, brother. God bless you. All right, guys, there's another episode. Make sure that you guys share this video with anybody that you know that's in sales, that's in entrepreneurship, right? That likes to learn about things about the Bible, right? We certainly covered a lot of that here today. I wish we covered more. So with that being said, guys, I'll see you guys at the top or from the top. Take care.